Good morning, everyone. Brett Kavanaugh speaking from my chambers on what's turning out to be a very significant day for American immigration policy. So I'm sitting here with my morning coffee, Colombian, ironically enough, when my assistant brings me the news that President Trump has just announced an indefinite suspension of green card applications. The media is already calling it unprecedented and unconstitutional, but let me tell you something. As someone who spent years reviewing immigration cases at the Supreme Court level, this might be the most constitutionally sound decision any president has made on immigration in decades. And after the conversations I've had this week with immigration lawyers, border security officials, and fellow justices, I think the American people need to understand why this decision isn't just legal, it's necessary. The constitutional authority. Let me start with the legal foundation because that's what matters most. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution requires the federal government to protect each state against invasion. And folks, when you look at the immigration numbers I've been seeing in classified Supreme Court briefings, what we're experiencing isn't just immigration, it's an invasion by legal definition. Yesterday morning, I had coffee with Senator Tom Cotton, brilliant legal mind, by the way, and he showed me numbers that haven't been made public yet. Over the past 4 years, we've processed more than 15 million immigration applications of various types. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to adding the entire population of Pennsylvania to our country. Brett, he says to me, the infrastructure can't handle this, the legal system can't process this, and frankly, the American economy can't absorb this without fundamental damage to American workers. The president's constitutional authority over immigration is nearly absolute. In 1952, Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, which gives the president explicit authority to suspend entry of any class of aliens if he determines their entry would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. This isn't some obscure legal theory. This is black-letter law that's been upheld by the Supreme Court repeatedly. The security briefing. 3 days ago, I received what's called a judicial security briefing from Homeland Security. These briefings are rare. We usually only get them when there are cases pending before our court that involve classified national security information. What I learned in that briefing fundamentally changed how I understand our current immigration crisis. The briefing officer, a career professional who's worked in immigration security for over 20 years, laid out what he called systemic exploitation of our green card system by foreign adversaries. Justice Kavanaugh, he says, we have documented evidence that China, Iran, and other hostile nations have been systematically gaming our immigration system to place intelligence assets and economic espionage operatives in the United States. He shows me case files. I can't give you specific details, obviously, but we're talking about thousands of applications from individuals with direct ties to foreign intelligence services, military organizations, and companies that are essentially arms of foreign governments. The current system, he continues, allows for minimal background investigation before approval. We're essentially giving permanent residence to people we haven't properly vetted. But here's the kicker. Congress has refused to fund adequate background investigation capabilities, so we're processing applications we can't properly evaluate. The economic reality. After that security briefing, I decided to do something I rarely do. I called some economists I know to get their take on the economic impact of unlimited immigration. Dr. George Borjas from Harvard, widely considered the top immigration economist in the country, gave me numbers that are shocking. Brett, he tells me over lunch, mass immigration suppresses wages for American workers by basic supply and demand. When you flood the labor market with foreign workers willing to work for less, American wages stagnate or decline. He shows me studies indicating that every 10% increase in immigration reduces wages for native-born workers by 3 to 5%. We're talking about thousands of dollars per year taken out of American paychecks, he explains. But the impact goes beyond wages. Foreign workers, especially those on green card tracks, often send significant portions of their income to their home countries, Dr. Borjas continues. We estimate that 150–200 billion annually leaves the American economy through remittances. That's $150–200 billion that could be circulating in American communities, supporting American businesses, creating American jobs. Instead, it's financing economic development in other countries. The Supreme Court immigration cases. Over the past 5 years, I've seen immigration cases that really opened my eyes to how broken our system has become. We've had cases involving foreign nationals who gained permanent residence, then used that status to bring in extended family members who had no job skills, no English proficiency, and no intention of assimilating into American culture. One case that particularly stuck with me involved a man who gained permanent residence through marriage, then brought in 23 family members over 7 years through chain migration. None of the family members were economically self-sufficient. All ended up on various forms of government assistance. This isn't immigration, I remember saying to my clerk at the time. This is taxpayer-funded demographic replacement. But here's what really bothered me. Under current law, there was nothing we could do about it. Once someone has permanent residence, they have legal rights to family reunification that supersede American economic interests. President Trump's green card suspension breaks this cycle. It gives us time to reform a system that's been systematically exploiting American generosity. The conversation with Justice Thomas. Yesterday afternoon, I had a fascinating conversation with Justice Clarence Thomas about the constitutional implications of immigration policy. Thomas, as you know, is probably our most constitutionally rigorous justice. Brett, he says to me, the framers never intended for immigration to become a mechanism for undermining American sovereignty. They assumed immigration would strengthen American institutions, not overwhelm them. Thomas pulls out a copy of the Federalist Papers and shows me passages where the founders discuss immigration. They expected immigrants to assimilate into American culture, contribute to American prosperity, and strengthen American institutions. He explains, what we have now is the opposite. We have immigration that fragments American culture, competes with American workers, and strains American institutions. Thomas makes a point that really resonates with me. The Constitution doesn't guarantee foreign nationals a right to American residence. It guarantees American citizens a right to a government that serves their interests. That's exactly what President Trump's decision does. It prioritizes American interests over foreign demands. The border security reality. Last week, I had an off-the-record conversation with a senior Border Patrol official who's been working immigration enforcement for 15 years. What he told me about our current system is eye-opening. Justice, he says, the green card system has become a magnet for illegal immigration. People know that if they can get into the country and establish any kind of foothold, they can eventually apply for permanent status. He explains how criminal organizations exploit our immigration system. Human traffickers tell their clients that American immigration law is so generous and enforcement is so weak that virtually anyone can eventually gain legal status. The green card suspension, he continues, sends a clear message that American immigration policy will prioritize American interests, not foreign demands or criminal exploitation. But here's what really got my attention. We estimate that suspending green card processing will reduce illegal border crossings by 40–60% within 6 months. Why? Because it eliminates the incentive structure that drives much of our illegal immigration, the cultural integration issue. I also spoke with Professor Samuel Huntington's research team at Harvard. They've been studying immigration and cultural assimilation for decades. What they found is disturbing. Current immigration levels are so high that normal assimilation processes have broken down. When immigration levels exceed about 300,000 per year, the lead researcher explains, immigrant communities don't assimilate into American culture. Instead, they create parallel societies with different languages, different values, and different loyalties. We're not creating Americans anymore, he continues. We're creating foreign enclaves on American soil. The green card suspension gives American society time to assimilate the immigrants who are already here before adding millions more. This isn't about xenophobia or racism. It's about social cohesion and national unity. Every successful society in history has maintained cultural continuity while selectively incorporating foreign elements. The congressional failure. During lunch with several House Republicans yesterday, I learned about Congress's complete failure to address immigration reform. Brett, one of them tells me, we've been trying to pass immigration reform for decades. Every time we get close, special interests kill meaningful reform. He shows me voting records on immigration bills. Corporate interests want unlimited cheap labor. Ethnic advocacy groups want unlimited chain migration. Democrats want unlimited voters who will support expanded government. Meanwhile, American workers get screwed, American communities get overwhelmed, and American culture gets fragmented. President Trump's executive action, he continues, accomplishes what Congress has been unwilling to do for 20 years. And he's absolutely right. When Congress fails to act on issues of national importance, the president has constitutional authority to act within his executive powers, the national security dimension. I can't share specific details, but I can tell you that immigration has become a national security issue in ways that most Americans don't understand. Foreign intelligence services specifically target our immigration system as a way to place operatives in the United States. Our generous family reunification policies make it easy for hostile countries to build networks of foreign nationals with legal status. The green card suspension allows our intelligence agencies to conduct thorough security reviews of pending applications and develop better vetting procedures for future applications. This isn't anti-immigrant, one intelligence official explained to me. This is pro-security. We need to know who we're letting into our country permanently. And frankly, that's just common sense. Every other country in the world maintains strict controls over permanent residents. Why should America be different? The economic benefits. Dr. Borjas also explained to me how the green card suspension will benefit American workers, especially in skilled professions. The H-1B program and green card system have been used by corporations to replace American workers with foreign workers who will accept lower wages, he explains. By suspending green card processing, President Trump is forcing employers to hire American workers and pay American wages. He estimates that the suspension could increase wages for American workers by $100 billion annually. That's money that stays in American communities, supports American families, and strengthens the American economy. Moreover, it reduces strain on American infrastructure, schools, and social services. Every new permanent resident costs taxpayers approximately $15,000 annually in public services, Dr. Borges notes. Reducing immigration saves money for American taxpayers. The legal precedent. The media keeps claiming that Trump's decision is unprecedented, but that's simply not true. Presidents have used immigration suspension powers repeatedly throughout American history. During World War II, Roosevelt restricted immigration from enemy countries. During the Cold War, multiple presidents restricted immigration from communist countries. During the 1980s, Reagan restricted immigration from countries that posed terrorism risks. What's unprecedented is the scale of immigration we've been experiencing, not presidential action to control it. The Supreme Court has consistently upheld presidential authority over immigration. In Trump versus Hawaii 2018, we explicitly ruled that the president has broad constitutional authority to restrict immigration when he determines it serves American interests. My constitutional analysis. As a Supreme Court justice, I've sworn to uphold the Constitution, not to support unlimited immigration that undermines constitutional governance. The Constitution's preamble is clear about the federal government's responsibilities: provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare of American citizens. Unlimited immigration undermines both objectives. It creates security vulnerabilities and economic competition that harms American workers. President Trump's green card suspension serves both constitutional objectives. It enhances security by allowing proper vetting, and it promotes American welfare by reducing job competition and wage suppression. The media hysteria. The mainstream media's reaction to Trump's decision has been predictably hysterical. They're calling it racist, unconstitutional, and un-American. But here's what they're not telling you. Every major country in the world maintains strict controls over permanent residents. Canada has a points-based system that prioritizes skilled workers. Australia caps immigration numbers based on economic needs. Japan admits virtually no permanent immigrants. Is Canada racist? Is Australia unconstitutional? Is Japan un-American? Of course not. They're simply prioritizing their citizens' interests over foreign demands, which is what every sovereign nation should do. The long-term vision. I had dinner last night with Stephen Miller, brilliant immigration lawyer and one of the architects of Trump's immigration policies. He explained the long-term vision behind the green card suspension. Brett, he says, this isn't about permanent suspension. This is about reform and rationalization. The suspension creates space to develop a merit-based immigration system that serves American interests. We want to admit immigrants who strengthen American, not compete with Americans, Miller explains. The plan is to use the suspension period to develop new criteria for permanent residence: English proficiency, job skills, economic self-sufficiency, cultural compatibility. We want immigrants who become Americans, Miller concludes, not foreign nationals who happen to live in America. The state-level impact. I've also been talking to governors from states that have been most impacted by mass immigration. What they tell me reinforces the wisdom of Trump's decision. Our schools are overwhelmed, one governor explains. We have classrooms where 70% of students don't speak English as their primary language. How are we supposed to educate American children in that environment? Our hospitals are strained, another governor notes. Emergency rooms are filled with uninsured immigrants who can't pay for care. American taxpayers are subsidizing health care for the world. The green card suspension gives states time to address these challenges without having to absorb millions of additional immigrants. The international perspective. I recently spoke with immigration officials from Canada and Australia about their policies. What I learned is that America's immigration system is uniquely generous and uniquely exploitable. We admit about 250,000 immigrants per year to a country of 40 million people. The Canadian official explains. You admit over 1 million per year to a country of 330 million. Our rate is actually higher per capita, but we maintain strict control over who gets admitted. Every immigrant we admit, the Australian official adds, has to demonstrate they will contribute to Australian society. We don't admit people who will compete with Australian workers or burden Australian taxpayers. The green card suspension allows America to develop similar standards looking forward. President Trump's green card suspension isn't the end of American immigration. It's the beginning of rational American immigration policy. For too long, our immigration system has served everyone's interests except American interests. It's served corporate interests, cheap labor, foreign interests, family reunification, and political interests, demographic change. The suspension creates space to develop an immigration system that serves American interests, economic growth, national security, cultural cohesion, and constitutional governance. The constitutional imperative. As I sit here in my Supreme Court chambers reviewing the legal and constitutional basis for President Trump's decision, I'm convinced that this action isn't just legally justified, it's constitutionally required. The federal government's first responsibility is to serve American citizens. Immigration policy that undermines American workers, strains American institutions, and fragments American culture violates that responsibility. President Trump's green card suspension restores constitutional priorities. It puts American interests first, which is exactly what the president's oath requires. What this means for America. The green card suspension represents a return to the constitutional principle of national sovereignty. America has the right to determine who becomes American under what conditions and according to what standards. This isn't about hostility to foreigners. It's about loyalty to Americans. It's about ensuring that immigration strengthens America rather than transforming America into something unrecognizable. The media will continue to attack this decision, but they can't attack its constitutional foundation. The president has clear authority to suspend immigration when it serves American interests, and serving American interests is exactly what President Trump was elected to do. Conclusion: President Trump's green card suspension is bold, necessary, and completely constitutional. It addresses security vulnerabilities, economic competition, and cultural fragmentation that have been ignored for decades. More importantly, it restores the constitutional principle that American government serves American people. The hysterical reaction from media and political elites proves that this decision threatens their interests, not American interests. They want unlimited immigration because it serves their agenda of cheap labor and demographic transformation. President Trump's suspension serves a different agenda, the American agenda of security, prosperity, and constitutional governance. Thanks for listening, folks. This was an important conversation about constitutional governance and national sovereignty. Next week, we'll talk about the legal challenges to Trump's immigration policies and why they're likely to fail based on clear constitutional authority. Until then, remember that constitutional government means government that serves constitutional purposes, and the first constitutional purpose is serving American citizens.